Hey, creative commuters. I am beyond jazzed today to introduce you to Michal Kapral. He is one of the best athletes on the planet, and I'm about to tell you why. He is known as the Joggler. That's because Michal runs marathons while, of all things, juggling. It's called joggling, but I told him it should be called ruggling because he is very, very fast. He owns the Guinness World Records for running the fastest marathon and half marathon while juggling, for the fastest 10-kilometer run while joggling without a drop. He's based in Toronto, Canada, and he is, I'm not joking, right underneath Joseph Gordon-Levitt on my must interview list. So excited to introduce everyone to Michal. Welcome.
Thanks. I'm very honored to be here.
I mean, we both know that I am so excited. I totally sent you this fangirl email saying, will you please come on the Creative Commute podcast? So background for listeners, I had a list last year when I started a podcast of people who I want to interview, and this man is on it. And so this is a very exciting moment for me.
Wow.
So awesome. So okay, let's get into it. Enough about me and my fangirlage. So you and I, but this is how our okay, back to my fangirlage. Our story starts in 2016. I ran my first marathon, the Chicago Marathon, and I finished and I was so dang proud of my time. I ran it in 4:33:58. So proud of that time, so excited. The next morning I woke up like miserable, couldn't move. I'm so sore, but also still proud of myself. And I turn on the TV and the newscaster is talking about this man who ran it yesterday in 2 hours and 50 minutes while juggling. That was you.
Well,
And I was like, what? I'm so proud of myself right now. This man ran it in an hour and a half faster than me while juggling. How is this possible?
well,
Michal, how is this possible?
you should be more proud because you ran for longer. I got it over with, which is always my strategy with marathons.
Okay, I can appreciate that. I can truly appreciate that. Amazing. I have to say, this is what you do is beyond what most of us can fathom. First of all, because it's such a strange and creative thing that you do. Like, who would do this? And of course, my question's going to be why, but also it's just amazing. And I love that I live on Earth in a time where somebody would have accomplished this.
Well,
So
that's pretty cool. That because I myself found it unfathomable to be able to do that when I first came up with the idea to run a marathon while juggling for the first time. It seemed impossible.
how,
And
where did the idea come from?
well, so I didn't come up with joggling. It's been around since the 70s. And there were records in the Guinness book for the fastest joggling marathon in the 80s when I was a kid and used to read the Guinness Book of World Records back when it was like that big, thick book. And one of the records in there was the joggling marathon. And I was like I think I used to say that I was 12, but I think I was probably like 14. And I saw that there was this record, and I thought, wow, that is the coolest thing. I want to break that record one day. And I
That
uh,
record, of all the records that you could have chosen in the Guinness Book of World Records, that was the one that just really
yeah,
stood out to you.
well, it did because I was a runner I ran for my high school, my school, like cross country track team, and I had just learned how to juggle. And so
Oh,
when I saw that, I was like, wow, I can do both of those things. And so I forgot about it for many years. And many years later, I was running marathons, so big into running. Hadn't really thought much about juggling, but I still had this dream of getting into the Guinness book. And I was, after my first daughter, Annika, was born, I ended up doing all my training, pushing her in a baby jogger for the marathon, the Toronto Waterfront Marathon. And leading up to it, I just thought, I wonder if there's a Guinness World Record for pushing someone in a stroller. And I
I
looked it up,
hate those
and
people who push in
yeah,
the stroller and they pass me. I'm like, what is this person doing passing me while pushing a stroller?
yeah. So I was that
You're that
annoying
person.
person. Yeah. So I had to get approval from the race director, who was kindly let me break their rule of not allowing strollers in the race. And so that was my first Guinness World Record in 2004. And yeah, the joggling actually got started out of that. So that led me, after I set the record, I was raising money for a sick kids hospital here in Toronto, and they asked me afterwards, well, what are you gonna do next year? And I immediately just blurted out, like, I remembered this joggling record. And I said, well, I'm gonna run the marathon while juggling. And I didn't actually know how to do this yet, but I essentially committed myself at the time. So I ordered juggling balls online, looked up the record, and then I just started training. So, like I said, I thought it was, to me, it was an impossible thing at the beginning. I knew how to juggle, like the basic 3-ball pattern. It's just like very I knew how to do this, no problem. And
Simple.
yeah, but channeling that into doing it while running was a whole new thing that took me quite a number of months to get good at. So there was just a ton of failure at the beginning, just over and over again. It was comical. Like, first of all, didn't want anybody to see me, so I was training at sunrise in a park, like a local park trail, and I'd be there like early in the morning when no one else was around, just trying to figure this thing out and just dropping balls right, left, and center. And at the time, like, I used these bean bags now, but I started out with these very kind of slick plastic juggling balls. So they were bouncing around and like flying down into ditches and stuff and into puddles. And it was very fun. I would literally laugh at myself in those early weeks of training. But the amazing thing was I actually started to get good at it, and I learned to put these two things together, and I discovered that the juggling pattern actually fits like perfectly with running when you do it if you do it just the right way. That basically every time, so you've got three balls, so you're basically like tossing a ball every time you swing your arm forward when you're running. So there's this natural meshing between the two. So your arm swing basically matches the toss of the juggling pattern. And
I
it's just
would never have guessed that.
yeah, it's just a little different because you have to catch the ball. Normally your hands when you're juggling are just out to the side, but then when you're joggling, you basically have to hold on to the ball after you catch it and swing it with your arm and then release it like that.
And
And
it seems like you would miss so much easier, though.
yeah,
Like, that's a real rhythm.
so it really adds something new to both of the combined activities. So the juggling, the thing that I find really cool with adding the running to it is it creates a 3-dimensional aspect of juggling. That's usually when you're juggling, you have like the pattern is in front of you like a wall. So you want to have however many balls or clubs or whatever you're juggling are just right in front of you. But when you're moving, it's a whole different thing. So when you're accelerating, or if you're, depending on the height of the toss, you have to factor in that forward motion, which is a whole different thing.
I love that we talk so much about creativity in the Facebook group for the creative commute. We talk about all of these different aspects, and you have brought so many different things into what you're doing, which, even just the 3 dimension of it, the rhythm of it, all of the different things that you have really broken this down in a way that I would have never even thought about. I'm just like, how does he do that? But you like have a science to it.
Yeah, well, I've thought about it a lot.
Well, yeah.
For the last 16 years of doing this. And
It's very cool.
Yeah, so I never expected to continue doing this joggling thing beyond this first marathon. I was just going to break this Guinness World Record, raise money for charity, and then move on to the rest of my life. But it, because I discovered that because I loved it so much, I couldn't stop, and I'm glad that I didn't, because I keep discovering new things that I like about it.
Well, and that is the like secret sauce to life, is figuring out
Hmm.
like what is something that you love that you just want to continually get good at, that you can keep challenging yourself at. And you're lucky that this one thing, for some of us, we do lots of different things, but you found this thing that like you just really love. And I mean, I can't imagine how challenging that is. It seems like it would be, it's unfathomable. It's unfathomable to most of us that you could even do this. So what I find really interesting, if we can go back in your story, is that you said in the beginning you didn't know how to do it, but you'd made a commitment to do it.
Right.
So I feel like there's something really in that for everybody to think about. Like, what is the thing that you want to do, but you don't know how to do it yet? Just say, I'm going to do it. And then you figure it out in the in between. You don't have to figure it out today. You've got
Yeah,
time.
yeah, exactly. And I knew that it was possible. I mean, someone else had done it already. I didn't know how fast I could push it, so that was a whole different aspect, is trying to go as fast as possible. Like by the time I set the current record, it's I think 20 or half an hour faster than the existing one was for that record. But making that commitment definitely just pushed me to do it, because I had said that I would, and it was also something that I wanted to do. So I made that commitment based on this childhood dream. So it was basically me just making a commitment to follow that dream, regardless of how kind of stupid it seemed. And I think the stupidity of it, or I guess the funny aspect, like I'm kind of a goofball, but I also like to challenge. Like I also like the endurance challenges. Like I really love that everything you get from running, which is just pushing yourself to the limit and all that stuff. And it can get pretty serious. I've come close to tears at the end of marathons, or probably have cried actually. But then, yeah, combining it with the juggling, which is funny, but it's also challenging in its own way. And so you've got your all kinds of brain activity going on with the juggling and combining it with the running, and then you have an entertainment aspect that's what kind of surprised me actually, that by the time I got better at joggling and took it into the public, then like once I ran the marathon for the first time, then I started training, just running through downtown Toronto, and discovered that I was like a little moving circus, like entertaining kids and people along the way. And it's so affirming, life affirming, or like the affirming of the humanity, the good in humanity out there, because you're just seeing people smiling and laughing and stuff like all the time. And so that's been like this unexpected side benefit of the whole thing.
Well,
And
something
yeah,
that I truly, truly believe in is that do what you love, and because that will bring you joy. And through you feeling joy, you will bring others joy. And actually,
yeah,
this is the epitome of that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's just it's so awesome. So I did read though that you actually dabbled in competitive eating for a bit. Let's talk about the incident with the saltines.
Yeah. Well, that was my first Guinness World Record attempt, because it sounded so easy. I forget what the record was, but it was, yeah, number of saltine crackers eaten in a minute without drinking water.
That sounds like a
Yeah.
terrible idea.
Yeah, it was. So that was definitely a failure that I did not want to go back into. So I'm glad I moved out of the competitive eating realm and into the joggling sphere.
Dry mouth does not bring you joy, apparently.
No.
Actually, though, speaking of that, I have a legit question for you. How marathon, even if you run it as fast as you run it, you need
Mhm.
you need to hydrate. Do you stop to at least take a drink of water? Like, how does that work?
Yeah, so the rules do allow you to stop. Like basically, you have to be running while juggling every step forward. And so if I want to stop to drink water, um, then I need to come to a complete stop, stop juggling, drink, and then go. So I try to, it wastes a lot of time. So I train myself to stop maybe twice, 2 or 3 times over the course of a marathon. And I'll just stop at the beginning of like where they're handing out the bottles of the cups of water, Gatorade, and I'll just stop and stand there and then drink like 3 or 4 of them and then
That
go.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I was going to say for comparison's sake, he stops 2 to 3 times. When I have run a marathon, I stop for just a second at every single stop, which is 20. I think there's usually like 20 to 21 stops.
Yeah.
So
And
that is
that's what
challenging.
I used to do when I used to run. I mean, when I run without juggling, I'll stop a lot more. But yeah, it just wastes way too much time if I'm trying to break the record. The record started to get really competitive, so stopping was minimized.
Competitive. Yes, you have a nemesis, right? You have
I do.
somebody else who's like after your record. I'm trying really hard to not make ball jokes, and I'm a 12-year-old boy at heart, and
Oh,
so
it's
it's
impossible.
like it's impossible. I'm like, is his life just full of ball jokes? It has to be.
Yeah, all day.
Okay, so you mentioned I'm curious about. So you use these beanbag balls? Is
Mhm.
there a difference? Does that work better for running, or is that what most jugglers do? Like you see a juggler up on the big tall bike thing. Is that what they will use?
Yeah, usually if you see a juggler in a circus, they use what's called stage balls. They're like these big plastic
Mm.
balls that look really nice, but they're not that easy to juggle. And the bean bags actually, I started out with these kind of stage ball type things that were really heavy and just killed my arms. Like when I finished the first marathon, the first thing I did was grab my biceps. I was like, ah. I think I was the only marathon runner in history who immediately like grabs his arms in pain after he's done crossing the line. But so I switched over to bean bags that were like a medium sized, and then I discovered through my joggling rival Zach Warren that he was juggling these little like smaller bean bags. So I ordered the smaller size, and and I found it was a lot better. So it's actually probably harder to juggle the smaller ones, and they don't look as good, but it's just faster. So I call them my racing bean bags, my racing balls.
Don't forget your racing balls. Speaking of your racing balls, do you put extra balls in your pockets, or is it just like these are the ones that I have and that is it?
Nope, I just go with what I have. So if one of them gets lost along the way for whatever reason, then that's the end of that.
No plan B.
No.
Just the balls in your hands.
Yeah.
Okay, what is the weirdest thing that has ever happened while joggling? Or have
I,
you had weird things happen while
yeah,
joggling?
I've had many weird things happen.
How could weird things not happen while
Yeah,
joggling?
exactly. I think the funniest thing I can remember recently was so I ran for several years. I commuted home from work. Speaking of the creative commute, my my creative commute was joggling home from work through downtown Toronto. I live in the east end of the city, so it's about I don't know, it's 5 miles. And one day I was running along like a main stretch of the city. It's a street called the Danforth, and I do this kind of like fun games as I'm juggling, and I'll be running along and I'll toss a ball up against a building and bounce it off and then catch it again and keep running, or I'll
Trick joggling.
yeah, exactly. It's like joggling parkour kind of. And so I was doing that, and I chucked a ball sideways against a bank that was at the corner, and it was this old kind of concrete building, and my ball got stuck in a rut, like um, wedged in a crack of the concrete in the side of the building, and it was about 10 feet up, so I couldn't reach it. And these two women walking along stopped, these older women, and they were kind of chuckling, um, and they were watching me try to reach the thing. And then one of them had a newspaper and gave me her newspaper to try to wedge it. So I was running up against the wall and trying to jump up and use this newspaper to push this ball, and I couldn't get it. Then I decided I would use one of my other bean bags to try to dislodge that one, and I tossed that one, and it missed it and got wedged to get it. So it got wedged. So I had two wedged balls, and then now I've got this like a little crowd of people wondering what is going on. And then these two women are still there, laughing and trying to give me advice. And then one of them realizes, oh, I've got this umbrella, and so she gives me her umbrella. And so I jump up, and they were like, oh, I can't believe we didn't think of that. And so I use the umbrella, and I get the balls back from the wall. and the women, I don't know what they thought about the whole thing, but we all just were almost on the floor laughing, like just about the whole situation. And so there was just me and these two older women who I'd never met, just like laughing till tears were streaming down our eyes. And then this other crowd of bewildered people having no idea what's going on, with this guy dressed in running clothes with these like juggling balls. and that was it. And then I said bye and joggled the rest of the way home.
I love that you just brought this little bit of joy to really to yourself that day, but also to all of these other people. And you just think, I really think to myself, thinking about what you do, how many people talk about what you do and you have no idea. Like, you had no idea who I was. And
Right,
here I
yeah.
am for, the past 5 years, I've been like that guy who juggled the entire Chicago Marathon. Like a real true story. The next year I ran the Chicago Marathon. I did it in 2016. I did it again in 2017. And after that 2017 marathon, I said I would never do it again because it was horrible. It was 90 degrees that day. There were bees everywhere. I don't know where the bees descended upon Chicago from, but there were just bees everywhere. And I was like dodging bees while miserable. My legs like locked up. I was walking like a pirate for 2 miles during this marathon. I didn't know that was a thing that happened to people till it happened to me. I was a peg leg walking through dodging bees. And I was like, you know what? If that dude can juggle this entire marathon, I can finish this damn race. And I started running again. Like, this is a true story. I thought of you and it inspired me to finish my marathon. So
that's
you just
awesome.
never know.
That's great. Well, no, I'm always inspired by other runners, and it's especially, like you said, runners who are finishing in 4 hours, 4.5 hours for a marathon. That to me is incredibly inspiring, because I'm done so much faster. I've done a few ultra marathons, so I've run that amount of time, but very rarely. So it's like I find that very impressive. And I've had similar thoughts. Like I did a non-joggling race last year. I set the Guinness World Record for the fastest half marathon skipping without a rope, which was another fun
that brings
funny
me
thing.
so much joy.
Yeah.
That you skipped an entire marathon.
Yeah. And so
half
it was
marathon.
So that was another experience that was very funny. So I was actually laughing as I was skipping, because I just could not help but laugh and smile, and other people were. But about 3/4 of the way through the race, things started to get really real, like extreme pain. I had blisters all over the bottoms of my feet, and it was just so hard. And I was just thinking of Terry Fox, who was running on with cancer and who had one leg, because I had the same kind. He had that, Terry Fox, when he ran, he had that kind of limp since he was running on a prosthetic leg. So I'm thinking, come on, Terry Fox did this day after day for a whole marathon. I could finish this half marathon skipping. Yeah, and I did.
Wow. I can't imagine. And blisters while you're running, that is one of the most, it's like, how is this little tiny thing causing me so much pain? But it is amazing how something can totally bring it into perspective for you. And that's different for every single person, what works and kind of helps
Hmm.
bring you back home.
Yeah, and when I'm joggling too, when I'm doing marathons like races, there are I always wondered what other runners would think of me, like running next to them or passing them. I mean, nobody likes to get passed by someone juggling, that's for sure. But uh, I think the spectators, sometimes I hear someone will say, "You're oh, show off," and uh, and I'm thinking, well, this is actually really hard. And I think when other runners see me juggling next to them and they're running, I don't think they get annoyed by it, because they can see how hard it is. Like when I'm joggling, especially towards the end of the race, you could see that it's not all fun and games. It takes a huge amount of concentration, and it hurts like a lot more than a regular non-joggling marathon would. So it's hopefully I'm showing other runners that, hey, you don't need to be doing this while juggling, but I'm choosing to do this, but you have it. You don't have to worry about all this extra difficult stuff, but you can appreciate what's going on. I didn't express that very well, but it's. I guess what I'm trying to say is uh, the joggling doesn't seem to bother people when they see someone next to them doing it.
I definitely don't think that you should ever worry about hurting anybody's feelings or making anybody feel lesser because they can't, because you have put so much work into what you do, and that is a huge testament to what any of us can achieve. And that's really what stands out for me with your story, is just you said, hey, I'm going to do this, and you figured out how to do it. And to me, any of us should take that to say, holy crap, if that was his reality, this was your reality, was, hey, I'm just going to try to break this record. And so you accomplished it. Imagine what any of us could do if we set that goal for ourselves and really work toward, and did the hard work, did the embarrassing work. I
Mm-hmm.
have I have a secret desire to learn to unicycle, which is another one of those super silly, embarrassing things. Like, how do you learn to unicycle without falling a million times?
Mm-hmm.
And it would be so embarrassing to learn. So I'm like, maybe I need to go like early morning in the park, like you, like with, you know,
Exactly. Yeah, but yeah, it's it's a process for any of these things where you start out not being able to do something, and then you just chip away at it, and then bit by bit, it's over the weeks, months, and years, you just get better and better at it, and then it starts to look natural, and it starts to feel natural too. And then these things that you accomplish, like the joggling, they might seem frivolous, but then they can end up bringing so much. Like I can't believe the things that I've experienced because of this like stupid thing I decided to do are beyond my wildest dreams. I mean, it's been incredible.
you just never know. You never know where one
Yeah.
thing can lead. And seriously, because you leaned into something that you were like, wow, this is kind of enjoyable. I'm just
Yeah.
going to keep doing it. Okay. I have a couple just questions for you. I'm just curious. Have you ever, have you ever tripped? Have you ever tripped and fallen? Like, you're in the middle of a race and you're just going, I think about this because at the marathon, there's so many people. How do you not trip? This is just, it mind boggles me that you wouldn't.
Yeah. So the one time I fell was a Santa Claus uh, 5K. It was called the Jingle Bell 5K, I think, a couple of maybe 3 years ago. And it wasn't because of the juggling. It was winter. It was like a Christmas themed race, and so everyone is dressed up in Santa outfits. And I think they might even have the world record for like the most Santas in a run. And so I'm wearing this Santa outfit, and I decided to juggle jingle bells. So I got these like gold bells, and I was juggling
Oh,
these
fun.
things, and they were jingling, so it was fun. And yeah, right at the beginning of the race, there was a big patch of ice, and I went sliding, and I was wearing a GoPro, so the whole thing is captured on my GoPro, and I just went flying, and then these jingle bells go all over the all over the road, and I was near the front of the race too, so I had to like get myself up, and then people were like jumping over me, and I was scrambling around trying to collect my jingle bells, and that was a mess, but it was very funny. And the
Jingle
only other
bell
time,
joggle.
yeah, and the only other time I've fallen was on a training run where I was running along the Lake Ontario, in Toronto, along the boardwalk, and there was a tree overhanging it had just rained, so the tree branch was lower than I expected, and it was night, so I was running and juggling, and I smashed my forehead on this branch as I was running, and it sent me sprawling backwards and onto my back, but I managed to not drop a ball.
What?
Yeah,
How?
and so I don't know, somehow like I fell, but then I just kept juggling like while I was lying on my back, and then I got up, and nobody was there to witness it. I was like, "Come on!" No one saw that. That was one of the greatest things ever.
But if you had completely wiped out, there would have been like 50 people there to see
Yeah,
it, of
for
course.
sure.
That's just the way it works. Okay,
Yeah.
have you ever dropped your balls in a porta potty?
No, luckily not. I did. Uh, there are a couple times that the ball has fallen like down a like a gully or something. Like I've lost a ball juggling in a park, like where it's rolled down the side of an embankment and into a like a river. And that was not fun. So I had to go like fish this thing out of a river. And I've dropped them in lots of puddles. Luckily, no porta potties.
That's
And
good.
after the Chicago Marathon, the funny thing was that was the first marathon I juggled, Chicago in 2016, without dropping a ball once. It was like this huge thing where I was like, wow, I can't believe I didn't drop the ball. And then literally, I think next day or 2 days later, I just randomly dropped my phone and smashed it. And and I was getting all these media calls and stuff at the time. So I was trying to answer my phone on this broken phone. It was like glass, all broken glass and stuff, and I could barely see the screen. That
Even
was
the
yeah,
joggler drops and cracks his phone screen.
yes.
You must have like used all of your concentration or
Yeah,
something.
that does
This
seem
is
to
not
happen.
the juggling movement that I'm trying. Okay, so think about what if there's somebody out there who wants to accomplish some weird, audacious
Do it.
thing. That's your advice. Do it. I love it.
Don't hesitate. That's what I did. Was that your question?
That's the question, and I think that's an awesome answer.
Oh yeah, that's why I didn't hesitate, because when I first decided to start joggling, it was without hesitation, and that's how I got better at running too. Is where I didn't I I set goals, but then I also didn't hesitate to just get it done, like because it's so easy to fall into a trap of inaction. So it's just like jump into it. You don't have to do a lot. Like especially with juggling, I practice juggling like 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day, but I try to do it regularly, and then things just build up and build up. And so with running, I got better by just putting on my running gear and just going out the door, because I never felt like especially with bad weather, which we have a lot of in Toronto. There's maybe 2 days of really good running weather. The rest is either freezing cold or boiling hot. And so I just put my running clothes on and get out the door and just start. And if I think too hard about it, then I'm going to think of excuses, and I'm going to sit back down on the couch and have a beer, and that'll be that. So, yeah, I would say if you're thinking about doing something and it's something that you think you'll enjoy, even if it seems like it's hard or if it's silly, then just go for it.
That is that is the best advice that any of us could possibly hear, honestly, is just do the thing that you want to do. Don't hesitate, because we can talk ourselves out of doing things that we honestly would enjoy. And actually, sometimes I think we spend a lot of time talking ourselves out of some of the things that we would enjoy the most, which is so
Yeah,
silly.
it's true. And it's something that I struggle with myself all the time. It's not like I'm out there doing everything I want to do all the time. So yeah, it's what I'll try to take my own advice more often with other things as well.
Well, you don't have to take my advice and go as the ruggler, but I I do think that you are not joggling. You are definitely
I
going
know,
much
but it
faster than a
doesn't
jog.
sound as good.
It's true. Ruggler, then you think that it's like somebody running down the street, like rolling in a rug or something, rolling
Yeah,
down the street.
or playing rugby or something.
Oh, rugby. Yes,
Yeah.
you go to rugby. I'm going to like a magic carpet ride.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any final thoughts for the audience? Anything that you want anybody to know, whether it's about joggling, whether it's about life, whether it's about rugs?
Well, rugs. Um, well, joggling wise, I would say, yeah, I think it's taught me that you shouldn't be afraid to do something that seems uh, frivolous, like I mentioned before. You, some people told me like, why are you wasting so much time on this? Like, what is the point? And the point is to have fun. Well, there are lots of points, but the main point is because it's fun, and and then you go from there. So if there's something that you want to do that you think is going to be fun, then it doesn't matter if other people think that it might seem silly. And I think joggling was a very good illustration of that, because I'm glad I didn't listen to anybody who said, why don't you focus on something a little more like serious or established as a maybe some kind of sport that has more than a few hundred people doing it in the world.
Yeah, you so easily could have talked yourself out of doing that at any turn.
Yeah.
At any turn along the way. I love that message. And I think that it's so true. And it's actually something that my own husband reminds me of all the time. And I turn around and remind him that it's do things for the fun of it. And
Mhm.
we just don't do enough of that in this
I
world.
know. And those things end up helping. I find it helps me with everything else, because it's just it puts you in a good mood, and you're always working on this like passion of yours, even if it's not the main thing you're doing. Like some people think that my career is joggling. Well, no, I have made some money doing it, luckily, but no, it's not my career. But the having the something you're passionate about ends up making you improving your life in so many other ways. You can just because you can apply all these lessons and experiences and feelings uh, to the rest of your life.
That's 100% true. As 100, I even think for myself with podcasting, that's the truth. You know, it starts to spill over into other places in your life. So I think that's a really wonderful message. So
Yeah,
thank you so much for joining. I just know that our listeners are going to love hearing your stories and hearing why, why, why joggling.
that was a blast. And yeah, if anyone wants to take up joggling, just let me know. I give advice to people um probably once a week. I hear from a new person who's decided to take it up. So go, don't hesitate to reach out.
Do you teach a joggling class? Do you teach a class?
Uh, no, I teach joggling by sending messages to people.
Gotcha. Well, that's very kind of you.
Yeah.
I love it so much. Is there somewhere where people can find you best?
Uh, Twitter, I'm MKAPRAL on Twitter, and that's probably the platform I use the most. Although I'm taking a bit of a social media break. And the joggler.blogspot.com is my blog that I haven't updated in a year, but it's there. It does have many years of joggling material on it.
joggle inspiration.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again so much for joining. I loved this conversation, and I feel like it's so funny to me how something that, I mean, it's obviously a huge part of your life, but people could look at it and feel like it's silly. I feel like you wrap that into such a really strong message, and it's all so true. So thank you.
Thanks for having me on. That was so much fun.